set v to their email.
So
So
DB
here's
is your,
our users,
yep.
and that's by email. So do I create a user with that email?
No, I'm just saying just grab a random entry from that map
And put it right here?
and set that to v equals some random email from that map. Just as a, so we can move on to the login part. So we don't actually know what their email, we don't know what their OAuth connections is always going to be empty right now because we don't have an OAuth register. So V is supposed to be some email in our system. So because we don't actually have anything in OAuth connections, and we can't have anything in OAuth connections yet because we don't have a register code, for now, temporarily, we will just set V to some random email from our user struct, or from our user database. And we can go back to doing the register code in exercises 5 and 6.
So key is a UID from, on this map, OAuth, is a user ID from OAuth provider. So we're checking here to see if at this email, right?
Or the user ID.
Oh, right, at this user ID, if there is, if the value, if there is the email, right?
Yep.
So email. And
So,
we also have,
so but because we don't actually have any code to actually fill in OAuth connections for now, temporarily we can just set EML to a random email from our user database DB.
oh, I'm so not getting that. You just tell me what to type, and maybe it'll come clear in the next exercises.
So it's just
What'd I type?
to get a random value from a map, you just do a for loop, for range over DB. And you just need the key.
And it's, what do we call it?
DB.
User. Oh, DB. Okay,
And so
we don't need the
don't need the value, just need the key.
key. And
so email is key, and then break.
like that?
Yep, and then break out of the for loop. So we're just grabbing some random email from our list of users. We'll go back to doing register later.
How about we just throw this away till later?
Because our next step in our exercise is log in, where we need the email. So you don't want colon equals, you want to overwrite that value
yeah.
from above.
I'm just wondering why that one's...
Because it's not being actually used
Oh, because
yet.
it's in the...
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
you're just putting in a random email just to kind of like bandage patch. You need something there.
yeah.
You know, I feel more comfortable if we just said like test at example.com. Would that work? Why do you want one out of our database? Like, so we don't put something in that accidentally goes to production. Would that work?
Yeah, but then you have to make sure that you register with test@example.com
Register.
when you're testing later. You'd have to use that email as your test email. You would need to make a user with that account, with that email. That's all.
Oh, because you don't want it to look in the database for something and find nothing?
Yeah.
So let's do that. I think that's
Okay.
better than somebody else, and that will, because that kind of makes me nervous, even though. So if we, we could make a user at test, an example, we only need to do that. And so to make an entry in our DB, so we could just say DB test with example, and it's going to be some user, right? Would that work? And do the user here?
If you're going to do that, I'd set up that particular account up the top.
You think it needs to have a larger scope than just an if
Just
block?
set it up so it's pre-filled out in the DB.
Both those?
Because you don't want to overwrite an account that's already got that every time you go through this process. So just set it so it's pre-filled out in your map.
Got it. So up here, are you okay with this solution, or is this worse?
Yep. No,
is it better or
this
worse?
works.
Indifferent for you, right?
Yeah.
And
so just in here directly, just inside the DB, you're initializing it.
oh,
So put your test@example.com :
what's my user's password first? We don't have an email.
yeah, this is your email.
Oh, that's the key.
Yeah.
And so password.
So it's not password. This is the key. Right now you're typing in the key. Maps were key value. That key is email.
Oh, I'm making a map.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. All right. Hold on. I was going to put the struct in. So this is a map,
This is a map.
and the map is going to be
And the value is your struct.
and it's going to be a user, right?
Yep.
And then a comma. There we go.
Yep. So
And that's gonna
password
be-
you can leave blank. You just leave that as its 0 value.
Okay. And then we just do first.
Yep.
Well, we don't even need first. Just test.
Yeah, just put a name there. Yeah.
There we go. How's that?
Yep. That works.
And this goes away.
So yeah, just for now, temporarily, since we don't have registration, if we need to register, stick it as some random, some value so we can see that.
Okay. All right. So we checked if there's no email. If there is an email, and
So-
OAuth connections is OAuth connections is our map. Keys from UID from OAuth provider, and value is user ID. And when we decode, we're decoding into PR, which is profile response, and then the OAuth connections, UID from OAuth provider and value, and then PR user ID, and then we're going to set that, we're going to see if there's an email associated with that user ID, and there's no email yet, or if there is no email, then we do this, and if there is an email,
So if there is an email, what you need to do is
Oh.
now create a session because you're logging them in.
so this is a check to see if they have already registered.
So it's the
How do I
same.
say?
It's the same code for login and register. So after this, if not okay, you create a session to log them in.
Okay, is this the right description? Check to see if they have already registered at our site with this OAuth.
Yeah.
Right, because in this map, if they've already registered with this user ID from this OAuth
You'll get
provider,
back an email.
we'll get back an email. Is that right?
Yep.
Man, that one threw me for a loop. If there's no value in the map, set the user ID to random user ID from the user's map. Create a session for your user, just like how login does it. And so now I create a session because
Yep.
I've got one email or the other.
Yep.
Right, and we're going to fix this
So
later.
yeah, email is filled out with a valid email. So you need to create a session for that.
Just like login does it. Login. And login, post, form value email, form value P, your password needs not be empty. So we got email and password, and we're not worried about password because they're OAuthing 2 into the site. And then we're creating a new UUID, and the UUID is for a session. So we're going to need to do this stuff, and then the cookie and all that, right?
Yep. So all that. And so that's all a good candidate for pulling out into its own function because it's being used in more than one spot now.
Okay. And to pull it out into its own function, I got to figure out what goes into it, but I'm first going to do that. I'm going to call this func create session, and then we'll figure out what it returns or what it does. And some of this will be back up here. And then I'm going to call create session. I'm not quite sure what we're passing in yet. So we get a new UUID, and then we need an email. So we're
Yep.
going to pass in an e string.
Don't put string there. That's what you're calling it.
Thank you. And then this will be e string. Take a breath. And then create a token. So UUID new string, and then sessions. We give it that UUID and put in the email, and then create a token. And the token, create token, is
Is our JWT code from the previous from Ninja
JWT.
2.
whoa. And then we get our token, and then error log URL escape.
So all this
And
error code should probably go back up in
return
the
an error.
actual back up a level.
So we can return an error. And this is going to get back an error. and create token. If there's an error here, then we're going to return, and we're going to return. So we pass back that, we get a cookie, we set the cookie, and we need the writer pass in.
Mm-hmm.
So here we're just returning the error. And
or your fumped error F.
Oh, that'd be good. Couldn't do my thing and create session. Couldn't what?
Couldn't create a token.
All right. All right, and then we need to pass in the response writer.
Yep.
And so this will also take a WHP.response writer, and then we're going to pass in that up here. Yeah?
Yep.
And
So you need to return nil at the end.
thank you. I like this new Halloween thing. Not sure what that's about. All right, so we got create session, and that gives me back an error. And I'm going to come down here and do error equal create session, and I'm going to pass in the email, and I'm going to pass in the response writer, and retype it or just copy it. And that was in login.
Yep.
Register, login, create session. Wah. Wah. I'm assuming some of that's going to be similar. If error is not equal to nil, couldn't create session in
OAuth receive. Oh, Amazon receive.
Oh, is that the one I'm in?
Yeah, it's wherever your cursor is. It's up there.
269. That's cool. Couldn't create token. Couldn't create token in. Our server didn't get enough lunch and is not working 200% right now. Try back. I like how back is spelled later. Redirect, and then query escape. You logged in email, and redirect message to ask the other. Does that seem okay?
Yep, that is it.
Is that it?
That is
With
it.
2 minutes and 22 seconds to spare.
So now I need to just run the code.
Redirect back to there. Okay. Ooh. I think it was a good conversation. It definitely helped me get more clarity. If I ever get a professional dev job and don't just teach intro classes, I think I'm going to need 2 seats at my desk for a while at least. And it's really big. Did I not click it?
Or didn't read it.
You logged in as tested example.
Yep.
Really?
But I'm not sure whether your other code is going.
So why didn't, wasn't there something we should do if there is an email, use that?
But we don't have an email in our OAuth connections yet.
Well, I get
So that's
email
the-
back here. It seems like we should be grabbing that and using
Except
it.
that doesn't have a user in our database.
So you don't want to use this email they give you if they give you email. You just want the user ID because that's unique to their system, and this could always change on their system, right?
Yep.
And so we just get their user ID, and then we look to see in auth connections if they ever use this ID, and if so, we get an email, and then
Hold on, I'm going to reset our camera.
user ID. Thanks. I'm gonna eat some chocolate. Fuel my brain.
All right, camera off.